No.
Just 1
No.
minute.
Got it.
I think we're going live. Yeah, no,
Okay.
Salil, it's I come from actually more of a circus performer, crazy background, and
Okay.
I pushed against a lot of the mainstream sports in my younger years.
Yeah.
So that was, and I've had to since recover. So I'm
Okay.
slowly catching up on cricket. My son's father's South African, so
Yeah.
I get it around me these days. So I'm learning.
Got it. Yeah.
All right.
I was in Australia in 2015 for the Cricket World Cup.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I
Good
was an
fun.
MC. Yeah, a
This
lot
is
of
the
fun. I
topic
was.
that we should discuss now during our interview. I think you will share it with us. It will be
Sure.
yeah.
Let's not give all the good
So
stuff to only Mubs, right?
yeah. So Maps, I will turn off your camera for now, and then I will turn on when it will be the section for Q&A and discussion with the audience. So hello everyone. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Salil, for coming to our Cloud Forum panel discussion and interview with you. I'm sure it's a hot time to discuss NFT thing for today, and I'm sure it will be great to know more about you as a person and what projects you do have now on BitClout, and what's your plan on it as well. So thank you, Mark, for joining us as well, for hosting this conversation. I'm sure it will be a pleasant journey for all of us today. So Mark, please.
Thank you, Alex. And again, every time, Alex, thanks so much for taking care of organizing, bringing Clout Forum to the table and giving a space for everyone to really get to share and for me to do what I love most, which is to meet new people and chat. So, Salil, you can relax, breathe deep. This is a nice chill kind of hangout together
Yeah.
where more than anything, just getting to know you and
Yeah.
get to know the platform a bit better. So first of all, welcome. You were saying
Thank
you had a
you.
bit of a exciting entry into the meeting
I
today. How are
did.
you feeling?
Feeling great. Yeah, I thought I would be late to the meeting, but somehow it worked out everything on the clock.
You
Yeah.
locked
Thank you
yourself
for
out and
having
had
me.
some fun, huh?
Thank you for having me. This is yeah, super happy to be here.
Yeah, I mean, so it's and everyone watching, by the way, thanks for tuning into the live stream, checking in, Mabasha. Awesome seeing you here live. And if you haven't met Salil before, I'm sure most people watching this will have seen your name flying around on the feeds, because Salil, you've been so active on the platform, bringing so much to the table. Prosper Clout being obviously one of the main ones that people will see a lot and has been an incredible tool. But before we get into all that,
Yeah.
I want to know just a bit more about you, Salil. Where are you based in the world?
So I'm in New York City. Been here for about 10 years. Yeah, living in the city. Just before this, I was in Boston, Atlanta. So been in the US for about 20 years and New York City for 10.
Awesome. Fantastic. So, and before BitClout came along, because there's almost like in most of our lives
Yeah.
that are on this platform, right? There's the before BitClout and after
Yeah.
BitClout. Before BitClout, what was life like for you? What was your general kind of day? What
Yeah.
were you getting up to?
Yeah. So it's actually the journey to BitClout is accidental, right? Like most of us back in February, March didn't know if there's something or something like BitClout will happen. Same, right? I was in a fortunate position where I was able to transition more seamlessly into BitClout. And I'll tell you why. Before BitClout, I was working on a startup, my own startup called Prosper Circle. So I like the word prosper. Now it's Prosper Cloud. It was called Prosper Circle before. And Prosper Circle was in the career services space. So with everything happening last year with the pandemic, a lot of unemployment, Prosper Circle's mission was to help people find jobs, find meaningful employment. So that's where I was spending my time. And funny enough, I joined BitClout. Someone told me about BitClout. I joined it. And my initial reaction was, look, it's a social media network. And I will spend time, create followership, like things that you do on a social network. And at some point, it would be valuable for people who are looking for career services on BitClout. And I haven't even checked, but if you see some of my initial tweets, I've probably hidden them, but they still live on blockchain, would be around career services and resume and things like that. But obviously, no one cared. It's a completely different beast. So yeah, so I was working on a career services startup before BitClout.
Wow. So that and is that something that you were driven to do from seeing that need, I guess, for people needing to be able to?
That's right. Yeah. So if you take the journey of Prosper Circle's journey was also, every startup has its own journey. Its journey didn't start to help people. The journey was to help companies find talent. And that's what we were doing just pre-pandemic. And then when the pandemic happened, instead of hiring, companies starting letting people go. And the demand, so that's the good news in a two-sided marketplace, right? Especially in career services. One side always has stronger pull. So either companies are looking for employees or people are looking for employment. So we seamlessly moved into a little bit of helping people find roles. So that was Prosper Circle's journey.
Gotcha. And this is something that I'm seeing, Salil, you role model so much is for us here on BitClout is your ability to adapt, really listen. Because I think that's one of the keys, right? Is not just on BitClout, but in the world in general right now, with everything kind of the old systems falling away, where we've got an opportunity now to reimagine, but we need to be able to listen to opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So how does that bring us then? So what was your introduction to BitClout? Obviously, it's a classic question you've probably answered 1,000 times.
Yeah. Very accidental and almost a joke. So I still remember one of my closest friends from my undergrad, bachelor days. He's into crypto a little bit. I'm not. And he's on BitClout, anonymous account. He's on BitClout. So he told me around March 22nd, 23rd, that there is something called BitClout. It's where social media marries cryptocurrency. And I'm like, I'm not big on social media, and I have stayed away from cryptocurrencies for the longest time. Like I bought a few, like very little. I put some money in Bitcoin, like maybe 5-6 years ago, just to see how this thing is. And I, in fact, like lost my wallet and everything. It wasn't anything major, so I'm not. Very, very little, like probably like $20, right?
Gotcha.
Even if I found it, it's probably $200. Even 10x, it's not a material number. So I lost it, didn't care much about it. And I was always, skeptical a little bit with all the ICOs and things happening. So he told me around March 22nd that there's this thing where it's cryptocurrency and it's social media and you should check it out. And I was like, dude, I'm not interested. So he's a good friend. He followed up. I went online on March 23rd to sign up, found a password to sign up on BitClout, and the site was wonky. It was up and down. I couldn't sign in. And I was like, dude, this is like, what? All the red flags. I don't want to do anything with this thing, and I forget about that thing, right? So I stopped worrying about it. A week later, on March 30th, he again pinged me asking, have you signed up? And I hadn't. So on April 1st, literally as a joke, I go online again to try to sign up. So if you check my login date or account creation date on Prosper Cloud, it's April 1st. And it was purely a April 1st joke on my friend, but it happens to be a joke on me because it pivoted my career. It changed, how I'm spending my time. So yeah, April 1st, I created an account, and that's how I got onto BitClout. And there were a few things that intrigued me, and we can talk about it.
Yes, I've actually got right up here. I do have your Prosper Clout account sitting there, and I can verify 100% April 1st is where the activity begins.
That's right.
Oh, fantastic. So, and I think this is really important for people to hear as well is what this experience is like when because often people will see people, those devotees to BitClout that see the vision and they can think that it was like that from the beginning. But I think, there's always difficulty in the beginning. Everyone has their own origin story. And I think it's a powerful thing to hear from people like yourself, which is, it's such an interesting story because you've created, together one of the most powerful tools for really being able to use this platform. And so, hearing you've come from that place of, what have we got here? And a fresh mind as well with BitClout. So you came in with almost that natural skepticism. Would that be about right to say?
100% right. And I've said this many times, and even now I say I'm cautiously optimistic. I think we're still not sure what BitClout would be. 6 weeks ago, we didn't know if it will be on an exchange or let's go back. 2 months ago, we didn't know if the code will be open source. 6 weeks ago, we didn't know it will be on an exchange. And those are things that, the dev team almost committed and they've delivered, right? So that is good news. But we're talking about NFTs right now. NFTs are not live. It should come soon. But we don't know the journey BitClout will take. So I'm very optimistic. But again, I almost always say I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so as you came into BitClout and you started warming up and getting a feel for the platform, what was there a kind of pivotal moment that changed from kind of holding back to going full force in?
Yeah, I think this was around April 3rd week. The day nodes opened up. That literally, I think it was either Thursday night or Friday night. I remember I was out having dinner with my wife. We were out at a restaurant, and my Discord, I started getting messages that finally we were hearing noise that nodes will open up and you'll have access to data and you can run your own node. Probably Thursday night, I feel. So Thursday night, we come back. It's like 10:30 in the evening, New York time, and my wife is. I tell her that I'll join her soon in the bedroom, and I was like, let me just see what's happening with the nodes and what's going on. And then there's all this noise around nodes, and people are starting to play with this. And I try to, set up my own node, and it's actually quite seamless. I thought it will be, it will be an issue. I'll start the process, go to sleep. But then there was like so much excitement around it, right? Like people like Tijan and people, like Paul, like bunch of other devs who were super active. They are posting things. They are, getting the node set up. People are answering questions. And the last thing I could think of is sleep at that point, right? So I got the node set up at 4 a.m. I went to bed, with the node fully running, syncing in the background. And I think that's the weekend when I was like, okay, you know what? Now we have full access to data. And I was still at that point balancing my time on BitClout and balancing my time with Prosper Circle, my previous startup. And I think that's when, I slowly paused Prosper Circle and started committing my time to BitClout and Prosper Cloud.
Wow. I mean, and that speaks a lot to what you saw in this, right? To be able to actually pause the startup you were working on and pivot like that. And I think that's where, that's that courageousness that startups take, right? Like startups don't come with any guarantees or they wouldn't be startups, huh?
Yeah. You have to believe in something, right? Like, so it is somewhere it's, if the chart was clear, if the path was very clear, everyone will follow the path and, it won't be exciting and the reward will also be limited, right? The uncertainty is what, creates excitement, is what, somewhat has those uneven outcomes, right? So, yeah.
Absolutely. And so as you're coming into BitClout, so you've come in, you've seen the nodes and you've gotten into that. Now, actually on the nodes, for the everyday user of BitClout, is the idea of starting up a node something they should look into, would you say? Or is that something more for developers to be, I mean, how could we look at that in a sense?
I think probably not. It's not for an everyday user to start up a node, right? Like, what's the use case? What do they want to get out of the platform, right? I think that's if that's where they come in from. And I think most people right now still, I feel most of the people here are extremely entrepreneurial, are trying to build something on top of BitClout. People who are joining here to look at it as another social media network are the ones who probably not engaging as much because there's less social media activity happening here. The most activity that's happening on BitClout is building on BitClout. So for a regular person, I don't truly see a reason. But again, right, this would be one of those things that you say, and then a year back or year down and 2 years down, you look back and you're like, what was I thinking? So as of right now, strong opinions loosely held. So one of the opinions I have is a regular person shouldn't need to worry about nodes, right? You don't need to worry about nodes. A project probably does. Maybe some creators who are building something substantial on BitClout may need their own node. But I really don't think a regular person who just wants to, enjoy the social media or the social network component of BitClout needs a node.
Do you know, Salil, as you were talking, I saw, I'm a very visual thinker these days, and I saw, like a construction site. And it's almost like when you say about the social interactions, et cetera, that there is really that startup vibe, the entrepreneurial vibe, like like these first months are for the courageous ones that can take the hits, that can ride the waves and
Yeah.
just keep building. And it's almost like the ones who are trying to do the social interactions, it's almost like going to your building site where your house is being built, but there's only a slab and a few walls and trying to have a dinner party. It's like,
Absolutely.
and then complaining about the weather.
That's a great analogy, right? And literally a very similar analogy that I've been talking about recently is a party, right? Like everyone wants to be on social media. It's a party, right? You want to go to a party, you want to have fun at the party. Now, if you go to Twitter, you go to Instagram, you go to Facebook, you feel you're late to that party, right? Assuming the party is about creating followership or whatever, right? I feel we are actually early to the party on BitClout, all of us, right? So if anyone who's joining BitClout right now, thinking they will enjoy the party, it's too early. But what we have right now is you get to choose the music that will be played in the party. You get to choose the seating arrangement of the party. You choose to, how the party will be set up, right? And that's a very, very fortunate position to be in. But if you're coming here to dance right now and enjoy the music is not going on and there's no dance party right now. We are in the early stages of setting up the party.
So that is such an incredible analogy. Like it really is. It's when you rock up early to a party, there's that awkwardness. It's either pitch in and help, or maybe come back a bit later, or just
that's
go
exactly
in
right.
The corner of the garden until we're ready.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah. And then of course there's always ones that get a little drunk. They rock up early and they're yelling and screaming, "Where's the music?" We have those too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, I love the way your mind works. So how did it move then? So what was the next point? So you've come in, you're kind of pivoting and you're starting to move. What was it that got you to go into Prosper Cloud? Like, how did that happen? What was it? Conversations you were happening? Was it just a kind of natural pivot?
So Prosper Cloud, right? The MVP on Prosper Cloud, I think, happened around April 10th. I set up Prosper Cloud a few days later, 4-5 days later, I set up my account and went through a few different name changes on Prosper Cloud. And what I want to figure out is how does the bonding curve work, right? Like the most exciting thing about BitClout to me at that point was, the whole coin price. Everyone has a coin, a token, and then the price changes on when you buy and sell. And that's what I was trying to figure out. I knew if you're buying a coin at the spot price, you're not buying at that price. You're buying at a higher price. When you sell, you don't sell at the price that you see, you sell at a lower price. So my entire thing was just to figure out what it is. So I modeled that up in an Excel spreadsheet, going back to my friend who introduced me to BitCloud. I shared it with him and he's like, why don't you put it up? So one evening I created a website, which is Prosper Cloud, and called it a creator coin calculator. And that's all it was. It was simply a calculator. You say how many coins you want to buy, what is the current coin price, and to tell you, you basically give the dollar amount. It tells you how many coins you get, at what price do you get those coins, takes care of the whole founder reward math for you and things like that. So that's what the initial thing was. And in some sense, I guess the reason I stayed on BitClout was the whole activity that was around it, the whole excitement. I launched it on one of the mornings, and by that evening, I have a coin price north of $500. And I'm like, people don't even know me, right? They don't even know the numbers that I'm showing are right. These could be random numbers I'm generating, right? They are just assuming that, my profile says I did these things, they believe it. The website I created shows certain things and they believe those things. So again, right, like the trust is there, they believe in this, but the whole activity is what got me going. And then very quickly, right, when people buy your coins, I guess there's a sense of commitment, there's a sense of responsibility that comes with it, right? That people bought this, and now what next? And I started speaking with those people, and they were sending me messages. Oh, can you change this? And can you add that? And that's what started the cycle. And I started making those changes, and basically meeting the requests that people had. The first request I had was, can I just type the username and can you pull all the information, right? So things like that. So small little things, but that's when it just started, like with the nodes opening up, with the community being so involved, what it could be. And I think for me, the biggest thing was, we have open data. There were lots of projects that were talking about either a wallet to track your investments or basically coin price chart. But I felt there's so much other rich data that sits here. And I was myself looking at, the blockchain and seeing, oh, what were the name changes people had? I think Craig, for example, went through 4 or 5 different name changes, right? Or username changes. So I was just trying to figure that piece out, right? What were those things? And I thought those are interesting to me. Let me just create it and see if it's interesting to other people, and shine light on the data that's sitting on the blockchain, right? That's the promise of the blockchain, that you can see everything, you can't change things in the history. And that's what I wanted to highlight. And yeah, that's the first version of Prosper Cloud came out in April 10th, 12th as a calculator, and then the second version was, I would say, May 10th or so, a little later, but the beta version was May 10th, around the creator intelligence, as I call it.
Yeah, I love that creator intelligence. It's, as you say, that's a little, it's like, I've got your Prosper Clout sitting on the screen on the side there, and it's just, it blows my mind to think about how fast you've innovated, how fast this community is innovating around challenges that arise, and watching what happens when you really do step into that open source environment where we're driven by vision and trust, as opposed to, the old business model where it's everyone's just chasing for their own little piece of the pie, watching, I mean, really, you are one of the most incredible examples of how BitClout can work, how it can actually bring people into their talent into the public eye, and then attract support without marketing needed, without any of those things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I really appreciate, the kind words, but I would be, remiss if I don't, say people basically share that the reason Prosper Cloud exists today and the reason it exists in its current state is because of the community, right? And like right now on our conversation, during our conversation, I see two names, right? Mubs and Brian. And initially, like the very first version that came out, I showed it to Mubs before everyone else got to see it, right? And not that he's a coin holder, just a close friend, or back in the day, just a person I trusted, and very, very helpful. And I just shared it with him, and he was so kind with his time, right? He jumped on the call with me, tried to solve some technical things. In fact, like one of the very top widgets that you see on Prosper Cloud, which says money coming in and money leaving, I had that as two different numbers: how much came in and how much left. And he was the first guy who said, you know what, that should be just one number, and what's the net, right? Just put the net out there and give the details below that, right? So that's just one example of how people help me. And same, right? Brian, even yesterday, right? There was someone posted around that there should be a way to search bios, and then Brian talked about it, and people and their comments, and that's been super helpful, right? The community's feedback has been incredibly helpful, from solving technical challenges to figuring out what would the end user actually like, because I'm probably too close to the product when I'm building it. So, taking a step back and showing it to an end user, if they like it or how they would change it. And the whole community has been super, super helpful.
It's heartwarming to hear you acknowledge that, Salil, because again, it's part of that old paradigm that's really, changing here is, there's this whole thing. I work a lot with, helping people find purpose and the rest. And there's an old saying, an old bit of wisdom, that it's like there's infinite answers in the world, but the real challenge is finding the right question.
I love that.
And they talk about the pursuit of enlightenment. And there was this old mythology that, everyone has their own unique question. If you can find that question, it'll trigger the process of awakening in that sense. And so what I'm loving when I see on BitClout and what you're sharing is we're really seeing that, people like yourself that are amazing at finding solutions and bringing these things together are now being paired up with people like Mubasha and Brian and so many of these others out there that are bringing the good questions, right? And you're listening to each other, as opposed to the old paradigm where there's this massive separation between the customer and the business, and they employ marketing companies and everyone to try and listen, right?
Absolutely.
So beautiful to watch that.
Yeah.
So moving from there, Salil, so you got Prosper Clout. It's been an incredible tool. I think many of us use it. And if you're watching this live stream, please do check it out, because it's an incredible tool you can use to help with investments, knowing what's going on, checking accounts, How did that then move on to your podcast with Maz? So How did that begin?
So a lot of these things that have happened on BitClout is, one-off opportunities, and then, some of them have materialized into something larger and some haven't, right? Um, and again, going to back in the day, even now, right? Like I spend most of my time on BitClout on my notifications tab. Because a lot of people either are tagging me and I want to be responsive, or the community has been super helpful where if someone asks a data related question, people will tag Prosper Cloud. And with that, I get to see what the question is, maybe engage with them and see if I can solve it. So I think this happened back in May, I would say third week of May. Raj Lahoti and Brock Pearson, they were running a show in the evening around memes. And Raj had some questions. He was looking for some data back in the day. I didn't have it. Someone tagged me. It was quick for me to do. I did that, and I just sent that data to Raj. Or rather, Brock, I sent that data to Brock, and he reached out saying, "Oh, I love your tool. I've been using it for some time. We're doing this show in the evening. Do you want to join?" And I was like, "Sure, let me know what you want to do." And he's like, "Oh, we'll just go through a few profiles." And I said, "That's awesome." So I joined that show. That's third week of May, fourth week of May, something like that. And we go through Raj's profile, we talk about it, we go through one or two other creators who were on that show, their profile, and people loved it. And I think that's where the idea of this whole show, the blueprint with Maz, I think came together. Their show was, that this was like a one-off thing, right? That they were showcasing a creator, they were showcasing a project. But for me, I felt this is an opportunity. There's a lot of discussion around, what should happen, what should people look at. But I feel there's an education component, there's an information component that's lacking. There are lots of projects building on BitClout. But still, not only do you need to build, but you need to almost, share with people how that project can be used. And I love, what Maz was doing with Clout Room. So I reached out to Maz with this, thought that, how about we collaborate and we build something like, initially we thought it would be like a Jim Cramer show, where the first thing we'll do is, or not the first thing, the main thing we'll do is look at a creator and go through that creator's different metrics and talk about it, right? We won't say buy or sell like the way Jim Cramer does on stocks, but we will go through those, metrics. And we said, yeah, let's run it, right? Let's do it for 2 or 3 weeks, see how this thing goes, and we'll go from there. And it's been 2 months, right? We started with that, but again, just staying current with what the key topics are. We've somewhat moved away from analyzing a creator, but analyzing topics from a data lens on BitClout. So our most recent episode, which we shot today, and the trailer is out, is on NFTs, right? We all know NFTs are coming soon. So we talk about NFTs. A few weeks back, we talked about cap table management, but we've also talked about different creators. So that's, how this collaboration, and it's been an absolute blast working with Maz, right? Like I actually posted this, and I didn't know we'll talk about this at all, but an hour back, I posted this saying, if you feel BitClout is slow or if you feel BitClout is boring, you need to work with Maz, right? That is the most fun I have in a week, which is working with Maz, right? Like it's an absolute blast.
Yeah, I did see that, Salil. I think when I was waiting for my boy to get in the car on the school drop off this morning, I thought I'll check Clout feed, make sure everything's all sweet, and I saw that, and again, it's like, this is what I live for. This is why I'm on BitClout. This is why I got the tattoo on this wrist. Me, this is I'm one of those crew. It's because this represents, to me, it's not a logo, it's a symbol, right? And this represents this. It represents community. It represents an opportunity to come together and reimagine how we work together. And watching how this, because I'm a big fan that environment creates a lot of our behavior in the world. If we're in fear because of our environment, our fear protection mechanisms come out, right?
Yeah.
So environments like Facebook, etc., tend to create a fear-fueled environment because that's how you sell. That's how you trigger attention. It's the easiest way to do it. Whereas on BitClout, it's been such an incredible thing watching how the environment they've set up with these specific rules to the game, in a sense, like a game of Monopoly, have created organically this kind of behavior that you're demonstrating, and really helping to share. So that's a beautiful thing. And I also wanted to speak to, like with you and Maz, that was something that I noticed when I watched the blueprint. was that you guys really enjoyed working together.
It's
That
a
you
lot
felt
of
confident.
fun. Yeah, absolutely. And I again, right, I'll give all the credit to Maz here. I remember our very, very first show that we shot. And it was my first time shooting. Maz has been doing it for a few months at that point. And the setup we had was we'll go through a creator. I will record my screen with different charts, different parts of Prosper Cloud while we talk about it. And then we do the whole show where we're talking to each other, but the screen recording, I'm taking care of it. And once we are done with the show, I will send that screen recording to Maz, and he will incorporate parts of it into the main show, right? So that was the setup. So we start off the show and we go through the whole 1 hour long show for a 30-minute episode. And towards the end, when we are like, all right, how was it? Great, we're done with recording. And I'm like, Maz. He's like, what? I said, I have bad news. He said, what? I said, I forgot to record my screen. We went through 1 full hour with, changing parts, how we are talking about it, the bloopers, everything, right? To get 30 good minutes. And then 1 hour later, I felt so guilty, right? I forgot to record my screen where, I was going through through Prosper Cloud. And he was so gracious and so nice about it. We redid everything, right? So we were supposed to do this for an hour. We ended up doing for 2 hours, but he was amazing about it, right? And that's just one example, right? And that happened week one. But there's always a stage when people are nice and polite when they meet. But through the last 2 months, just knowing Maz and working with him has been an absolute blast, right? So it's the most fun I have during the week.
That's awesome to hear. That's awesome to hear. And anyone watching, this chat, please do get in and check out the blueprint on YouTube with Maz and Salil, because I when I tuned into it and saw what you guys were offering, I thought it was exactly, as you were saying, Salil, that education component. It's all good to get excited and amp up, everything, but it's like, I was explaining to someone the other day, it's if you try to remember back to the first time someone played Monopoly, right?
Yeah.
Monopoly is not an easy game to explain. If you try and sit down and explain to someone the rules to Monopoly before you roll the dice, it is so painful, right? And no one's ever going to understand it. But you learn when you play, right? You start playing the game and you go, oh, why is this happening? And then you can have a look at the rules and then it clicks, right? And I kind of see what you guys are doing. The blueprint and Prosper Clout is backing this up so beautifully. And so much of what you're bringing, Salil, is really helping people to learn the rules of Monopoly, of BitClout as we go, right?
And frankly, I'm trying to learn the rules myself, right? Like it's like we're all trying to figure it out. And I'm sure there are things that, we are not doing right. And hopefully, we correct and we learn. But I think the whole community is helping with what we're doing. So it's been an absolute blast.
Absolutely. So with that, what would be your advice? What would be your the golden nuggets you could offer to new people on the platform that might be watching this from everything that you've learned in your experience to date, those who are really wanting to give this a go and get involved? What would be your little words of wisdom?
I don't know if the words of wisdom, but I think I'll go back to the analogy we spoke right around the party. I think we are very early. And this is almost once in a lifetime opportunity, right? We are incredibly lucky to be here at this point, where you can shape, an individual can shape how, this new creator commerce looks like, right? How many times can we say that, you had that opportunity to shape that? And I really believe this. I certainly, from the bottom of my heart, believe that we have this opportunity to shape it. So rather than joining and feeling, what, it's boring, nothing is happening, make it happen, right? If you think people are not on BitClout, find out why they're not on BitClout, create that on-ramp for people, right? And along the way, right, you would help creators. But if, there are other pieces that encourage you or motivate you, right? Like personal reward, building your own brand, building your own, somewhat wealth through the process, right? Like if you help a lot of creators, you will make that happen, right? So I think it's a great time. So there are lots of things that need to be done. There are lots of things that need to be built. It's hard. It's very, very imperfect right now. But that's the opportunity that all of us have to, slightly, basically perfect it a little bit more along the way and make something that's, that we are proud of.
think that's wisdom right there. Whether you want to brand it or not, I will.
Oh, thank you.
So
Thank you.
then that brings to the natural cycle.
Yeah.
Where do you see it going, Salil? What's your, and I guess there's two kinds of vision someone might have, where they think it's logically going and where they'd like it to go. So what's your vision for what BitClout could become?
So I think creator commerce is going to happen, right? Whether we call it BitClout made it happen, BitClout had a role to play, or something else, creator commerce will happen. Cryptocurrency will have a role to play in creator commerce. Where do I see it go? I think right now the biggest challenge that we have with BitClout is people don't know how to create value on BitClout, right? We need to trade value. So there are two types of people who would join BitClout in my mind, right? One is if you're joining for a social experience, right? Like the social networking part of it. And let's be honest, right? The social tools on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter are way more sophisticated. They've been around for 15 years, 20 years, 10 years. So, that's not what BitClout is about, right? You're not joining BitClout because you're not having enough of, you don't have enough good social tools to play with, right? So that's not it, or even the number of people. Then the second thing is you join it because of the commerce part of it. Now, the commerce part of it is, I feel, somewhat limited right now. And I think, again, it goes back to one, there are tools that still need to be built and people are working on it. But I think it's more about education. I think it's more about business model innovation. The white paper, or the one pager that came out with BitClout, goes in detail and talks about the whole coin economics of it, right? How you buy a coin and why a coin price can go up and how the coin price can go down. And I feel that it somewhat has limited people's imagination on what BitClout can be and what BitClout can enable. All of us are focused on the coin price rather than value creation or value trade. A simple value trade could be, you can build an Airbnb on it, which has nothing to do with the coin. Say, guys, you know what? You can come live in my apartment for a weekend in New York City for, I don't know, 3 clouds, right? That's in today's price, roughly $300, right? I don't see enough of that. Or you can get a coffee subscription on BitClout for 1 cloud or whatever for a month, right? I think that model is very interesting. And people should, should experiment with it, play with it, right? Not just the coin economics model. I think that coin economics model, has actually been a limiting factor in the near term versus, helpful. It will benefit, it will have a role to play. But I think for that, there needs to be a lot more action on BitClout. There needs to be a lot more activity, liquidity, a lot more people, where you're betting on, few creators' success, and, that plays out. But in the meantime, I think we need liquidity. We need people buying and selling and, just trading on BitClout. And just through, value transfer, value exchange, I think we can make that happen.
Love it, Salil. Love it, man. And you've brought so much to the table here and for contemplation. And I think this is one of the most valuable things we can throw into the community right now, is that capacity to open our mind, like you say, get those blinkers open and not just think about the coin and how holding that's going to go up, but how can we keep the energy moving?
Yeah.
Beautiful. So at this point, Salil, I'd love to hand it over now to Alex, who's got some questions for you. And I got to say thank you for, this is always my favorite thing, just to drop into these conversations. And so Alex, what have you got for Salil?
Yeah, so I will have a few questions for you, and then we'll jump in with to the talk with our guests, with Brian Nova, Mubashar Iqbal, Wildography, and RDG Group. So the first question that I would like to ask you is about more of your background. So the interesting fact that I've learned from you in our previous call was that you studied at the same department in MIT as Dharma Shah.
That's right. Yeah. So I graduated from MIT Sloan in 2011. I think Dharmesh might have graduated around 2005, 6. I don't know. But 4, 5, 6 years before I graduated. And I've always looked up to Dharmesh, right? So when my class and I was at MIT, he used to visit and he would, share how they are building HubSpot. In fact, we had a case study on HubSpot on how Dharmesh and his co-founder, Brian Halligan, who happened to be his classmate and was also at MIT, how Brian Halligan and Dharmesh are building HubSpot. So it was super fascinating, getting that view from these two people before it IPO'd, 4, 5, 6 years into it. So that was extremely, extremely amazing.
So I think we just have lost Alex there for a second. Here he is.
Yeah, I'm sorry for my connection issues. So I was asking about your MIT experience, about your the one interesting fact that I've learned from you is that you were studying at the same department as Dharmesh Shah. Is it right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So I was just saying that
Could you share your experience in it?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So Dharmesh, I think I was just mentioning that I graduated in 2011. I think Dharmesh probably was like 5, 7 years before I was, and I should check that. Dharmesh and his co-founder Brian Halligan, who built HubSpot, were in the process, probably like much more ahead than most startups. But they would come visit classes and very involved. Right, like HubSpot is based out of Boston, and so is MIT. So these guys were very involved with the community. So yeah, it was a wonderful experience to have them as guest speakers, along with other amazing, alumni who would come and share their experiences.
Yeah, thank you for sharing this interesting fact that you have some sort of direct connection with some big tycoon.
I don't know. I think it's a big school. So yeah, I would, that would be a stretch of imagination, me seeing I have a direct connection with Dharmesh. I don't. We just share the same school. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So another question, I would like to move from BitClout topics to more personal topics for you. And the next question that I would like to ask you is, what do you value most in people? And what traits of the character should the person have so you will decide to hire him?
Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit. Do you mind typing the question? Just so that, it's...
Sure. So what Alex was saying, his connection is a bit shaky there, but he sent them through to me as a backup as well. So he was saying, what do you value most in people, and what traits or characters should the person have so you will decide to hire him? So what are you looking for?
Oh my God, that's a deep question. I think, probably two things. I think one is commitment to a cause, right? Like no matter what cause it is, right? So if you're working with someone, they should be committed to something, right? Like it could be the mission of the company. It could be a larger mission than the company, right? If it's a nonprofit, like they should truly care about the mission they're working on. So commitment to a cause, I would say, is number one. And then number two, taking pride in their work. And I feel those two things, if someone has those two things, that actually takes care of a lot of other things. So if you have pride in your work, you would almost, put in the extra time. You would put in the time that's required to, deliver the best possible work you want to. Or if you don't have an answer, you don't know how to get it done, that person will, take the time, take the resources, spend, whatever it's required to basically do it, right? So pride in their work and commitment to a cause. I would say those are the two things, right? And it's hard to know. And these things also change. I think pride in your work probably is something more inherent. I think that stays with people. Obviously, it can be, people develop it over time also at times. And commitment to cause, I think, can be somewhat, it can move around, right? You may not be committed, and you can get committed depending with your experiences, and vice versa, right? So, but those are the two things, right? I would say are the things to have in a good team member.
I think it's a great response, Salil. And I think that's something we're seeing on BitClout is it takes that kind of characteristics, and again, it shines, right? We've created an environment here where it's naturally rewarded. So that's awesome. So Alex, I'll tell you what, Alex, you want me to jump on to the next question? I think his connection's a bit in and out this morning.
Yeah.
So the next question Alex had put together for you is, what would you consider your most essential connections that you've made on BitClout in the time that you've been on?
Oh wow, there's so many. So I won't list names because again, right, that's just, I'm sure I'll miss out on a few people, but like the categories of people, right? Like devs, right, on the platform who've helped me on through technical challenges to figuring out, things on the platform. And then obviously, other connections that are non-technical, either I've collaborated with them on projects or, I'm just inspired by the work they are doing on the platform. Lots of connections, right? I think one of the advantages, we talk about there are not enough people on BitClout, but one of the advantages is that we can form meaningful relationships with people who are on it, right? And in some sense, those who are spending time on BitClout are, you have shared interest and that shared topic, right? So there's a shared common ground, common understanding that, strengthens that bond. So I feel almost, again, fortunate to be in this position because I'm passionate about it. I'm committed to it. And then the people I see all the time in like, Clubhouse or Zoom calls or Discord or even on BitClout are the same people. So at least I have that sense that these people are committed. And, through that common shared BitClout experience, there's a bond that's being built.
Beautiful. And so I know what you mean. So whenever I see those posts where it says, tag your favorite, it's like I get paralyzed. I can't. It's like I'd be here forever and I'm going to miss somebody.
Yeah.
All right, beautiful. So we've got a couple more questions here. And while I'm asking these, if anyone in the Zoom room here has a question, chuck them in the chat if you've got a question for Salil, or if you want to ask him a question, let us know. And meanwhile, one of the questions Alex has put here is around grey bots. Now, I'm not familiar with that term, Alex, but are you familiar with what grey bots are, Salil? I know bots, though.
Yeah. So bot is anything that's automated, right? And we were playing with this. It's just a word play, right? Bot can be a good or a bad thing, right? Like by definition, like when you hear bots, I think there's a negative response that it's a bad thing. It's automation. And I don't think automation is all bad. So I think there was a post that probably, I put up last week saying, how do we identify gray bots? And probably that's where, the word, like he chose that word. So yeah. So I think gray bots are ones that are somewhat, intrusive and, are somewhat detrimental to your experience on BitClout, whereas a white bot or a regular bot is probably helpful, right?
And I think, Salil, it was funny yesterday, or funny in all manners of the word, seeing how when you re-clouted, the post for Clout Forum, suddenly I started seeing in my notifications your exact words from all these different people. And I'm like, what's going on here? I was like, oh, that's a new creative use of bots.
Yeah. So I would call that a gray bot, right? Like that's not what you would wish, and that's not what I would wish, right, to happen. And then last week, there's been a lot of bot spam, I would say. Tijan actually put out a post. He did some analysis with the top 10 accounts that are impacted. So Tijan's account is impacted. Brutal's account is impacted. Maz, my account is impacted. I think there are, again, a bunch of other accounts are impacted. So you experience that firsthand, right? Like, so anytime I'm posting something, other people are getting, multiple times that same post. My notifications are almost a mess right now. People will like and unlike things, or bots will like and unlike my posts. So it's almost unusable. So yeah, something has to happen. That's, I would say, a gray bot, like a gray bot activity, obviously.
Awesome. And so do you see solutions in the short term for these kind of challenges, or do you think it's going to take a little more time to get on top of these bots?
Yeah, I think it might take some time, right? So I think it might be possible to identify these bots. I don't think they're very sophisticated right now. And I was talking with Mubs about this also over the weekend, and it can be a straightforward, way of figuring out what their pattern is and almost using that to identify what is a bot versus what's not a bot. But that's good and dandy. How do you incorporate that also on bitclout.com, right? That's the node. So bitclout.com needs to incorporate that and, maybe suppress some notifications coming out of these bots. And then there'll be false positives and there'll be false negatives. But to your question, right, I think bots will exist without a question. That is somewhat almost the bane of non-censorship, right? You can't censor them. They may not show up on bitclout.com node, but they can run run wild on the blockchain. They can create stuff on the blockchain. And maybe that's a discussion that needs to happen, that is there a world where certain public keys or certain accounts maybe are limited to participate on the blockchain, or what happens when they create too much content on the blockchain which is almost garbage, right? So I don't think there's a near-term solution to this. There's something that the product people, the dev community needs to figure out together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's quite a powerful, almost philosophical question, right? That we're going to have to deal with in these years.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be a good one to chew on to help keep us aligned to what is it we're actually creating? What does decentralization actually mean? And how do we prevent ending up with those centralized clots again?
Exactly.
Beautiful. So just being aware of your time as well, Salil, and everyone else's. Coming in, just a couple more quick ones. Now, sorry to whoever posted this in the chat. My Zoom is not showing the names for some reason. But the question is, in a long-term mindset, why do you think there is so much emphasis on getting to day 100?
Yeah, it was just a fun thing that I did on Prosper Cloud, right? Like people who've been here for some time, create milestones, right? I think milestones create momentums, creates excitement, and that was basically the purpose of it, right? Let's celebrate something. And the genesis of that was from one post that Andy Arts made, right? Saying that, okay, on my 100th, I'm coming up on my 100th day on BitClout. And with that, I would, like to invest in people. And there were a few things he mentioned. And then that was the genesis. And a few other people have started talking about, their 100th day. And I was like, okay, this is something that people probably emotionally care about. And, how about we celebrate that, right? Because along the way, we should celebrate, any milestone or any achievement. And this became one of the celebrations on Prosper Cloud.
Absolutely. Great answer. And look, it felt great. Like it feels exciting, right? Like I remember jumping on Prosper Cloud and actually going, because I saw everyone posting about 100 days. And I was like, hold on a second. How long have I been here? And I popped on, it was like 102 days. And I was like, hey, it was an exciting feeling.
So your 100th day, I don't know if you've seen other people's 100th day, your profile photograph has a hat on it and there's confetti falling on your profile. So I'm sorry you missed that. There's a literal awesome party happening on your profile on your 100th day.
That is brilliant. I wasn't aware.
Yeah. So if you see certain
little nuances.
Yeah, if you see certain profiles wearing those red hats, those profiles, they basically, copied or took a screenshot from Prosper Cloud and put it on either Clubhouse. I've seen profiles wearing hats, and on BitClout as well. And that is, a little party happening for you on Prosper Cloud profile on your 30th day and on your 100th day. When you complete your 1 month, there's a blue hat and there's some balloons. And on your 100th day, there's a red hat and there's confetti falling.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I didn't know that. And this is the gamification of life, right? That's starting to come out. He's like, I'm loving seeing this combination of, cutting edge entrepreneurial, and business and all this kind of stuff, cutting edge developers and coders and all this stuff. And then just the cutting edge of creatives and rebels, etc., all kind of coming into the middle, being joined together by this gamification, where there's this joy and this fun. Because that's something that, as I've been pondering, the future for our planet and where we're going and how we're going to get through these challenges, the word that keeps coming up for me, Salil, is fun.
Yeah.
It is no matter how much trauma, how crazy, how mad it gets, if we can keep having fun and work that out, then we're going to be all right. So, and I love that you're doing that on the platform.
Thank you.
Beautiful. So, I just want to do a shout out, Mubasha, as well. That because I know you've been such a contributor to the platform. Did you want to pop on and say g'day before we bring this to an end with Salil here? Throw you on the spot. Totally okay if you're not in the right position. There he is.
Hey guys. No, I mean, absolutely. And I know, yeah, I've been listening to everything that Salil was saying. I will just say that he's being very humble, because a lot of the stuff that he does, people have been trying to do and they can't figure out how to do it. So even with like the pricing of the created coin on the bonding curve, people understand it's the bonding curve and that's how the prices are calculated, but it took somebody with some smarts to actually figure out what that bonding curve was and how to allow people to kind of experiment with that. And I know it's not the easiest thing in the world, so props to him for
Thank you.
seeing a problem and then spending the time to figure it out. So it's very easy to say that where we're kind of here as a community, but we need smart people to lead the community, and Salil's right up there.
Oh, thank you.
I'm glad I invited you on, Mubasha, to say that. It's always nice to have the third-party verification, because it's hard for someone as humble as Salil that's doing so many amazing things.
Can you hold on? I can get my wife, and can you repeat that? Oh, okay. This is recorded, right, Mark?
Yes, it's all on recording.
Yes. Thank God. I'll just play that last segment that Mub said. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm happy to say it in person as well. Next time I'm down in the city, I'm happy to say it as well.
Let's do it. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And Rome, did I see a piece of fan art there? Rome, did you want to?
That's a big 10-4. Can I show it now?
Turn that video on to show us again? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, can I show it now? I thought it was my turn. I'm sorry.
Oh, it is now.
Okay. I was trying to get the nose done. I didn't get a chance to get the nose done in time.
That's amazing, man. Thank you. That is amazing.
Absolutely. I don't have a chance to get the nose done.
That is amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, I did it while I was listening. So
wow. So you did all of that in like what, an hour? Less than that?
Well, less than that, because I started at 10:15 after. So
wow. Thank you. That is amazing.
But yeah, there you go. I do
He's
these, man.
touching it up as he speaks.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I just didn't get a chance to do the nose.
It's done.
But yeah, there you go.
Awesome.
Thank you for Clout. It's been a very good tool to just check on myself and what I'm doing and not doing. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
That's beautiful, man. Rome, love you to pieces, and that's epic. That's epic.
Thank
Again, so I mean, look at this. Like, how many living, breathing examples just in this room right here of what BitClout is bringing to the world, the goodness of humanity.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So, is there anyone else that wanted to throw in a last comment for Salil or question before we bring ourselves to an end? I mean, Salil, I could talk to you for weeks. But,
thank you.
You know, Alex, you made it back.
Yeah. I hope it will be fine with my connection. I'm sorry for these troubles, guys. But you are doing very well without me as well.
We got you back, Alex.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, beautiful.
Salil, you are so an amazing guy, and it's just an honor to have a chance to talk with you. And I'm preparing the stuff that I've promised to send you. I've just got some new ideas, and I need to complement them, so you will get the best proposition that I have. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for having me here. This was so much fun.
Thank you.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, Salil.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, maybe one day we'll do another interview just about your family, your wife, because we heard a lot of about her today.
Yes, absolutely.
Really cool.
Is it too late to ask a question for Salil?
What do you reckon, Salil? You got time for one quick one?
Of course, I can.
Yeah, Lisa, jump in.
Yes, hi Salil. I just wanted
Hi.
to pick your brain. I represent a wildlife charity that treats victims of poaching, and I just wanted to ask your advice on what someone like myself was the best way to show my presence and also be able to raise funds,
Yeah.
to raise awareness and funds for our organization. There's not many charities on the platform
You're right.
to learn from, but I
Yeah.
just want the best way to create an impact.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good question. And in fact, 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I'm happy to connect with you after this thing as well and talk more about it. But 3 or 4 weeks ago, on the Blueprint, right, the show that Maz and I do, Brian Krasenstein, he joined us, and the whole show was about talking about how you can do social good, or what projects are focused on social good should be looking at or should be doing on BitClout, right? So I can send you that show for you to take a quick look. But I think the 3 or 4 highlights that we talked about, and I don't think there's a right answer. So, everyone's experimenting right now. One is people, just model the same founder reward, like 10 or 20%. So I think that somewhat almost muddles what the charity is about, because then you're promising that taking the 20% for some social good, but then you're also promising that people keep their 80% and you would increase the value of that 80%, right? And I don't think those two things happen at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And I remember Brian saying that, he would be much happier paying a higher founder reward, 70%, 80%. And it's almost like supporting a charity at that point, right? So something to think about. And I think the other thing that was somewhat interesting to see is certain charities or certain social good projects were doing the social good, but were also trading. And I think then the question is, right, like when you're trading, right, how are you looking at it that way, right? So few things to look at. I think the easiest thing would be just to, look at the show, but we can connect offline and, happy to discuss ways. I really think it's harder for charities right now on or social good projects on BitClout, right? Traditional projects haven't been able to truly crack a model, and social good projects have a slightly higher hurdle.
Yeah.
Although I think this whole model is very powerful, but I think we need people who will innovate on this. And I really hope that your project does that. And it almost leads a path for other projects to follow, and you create somewhat of a blueprint, right? Pardon the word, but somewhat of a blueprint for others to do. And I'd love to chat about this.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I'll send you a DM somehow.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking the time.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And I popped into the chat there, Lisa, the link to that podcast from Salil.
Oh, thank you.
So you can get onto it straight away. And I'm going to check it out as well, Salil. You guys have got so much good content there waiting to be absorbed. And, I think, for everyone watching and the new people getting on board, and even those that have been here, I mean, like you say, Salil, we're still like, it's almost like I see this idea of, a sculptor gets a block of rock and there's that saying that, the sculpture's already in there and the sculptor just has to get everything else off it, right? And chip it all off and discover the sculpture. And in a way, I feel like that's what we're doing with BitClout is
absolutely.
It's already kind of in the ether. It's already kind of built itself. And really it's just for us to chip around, experiment, explore, and find out what is its actual shape, right? And it's going to take some time. Yeah. Beautiful. All right. Well, my friend, it's always nice to leave people wanting more. And so with that, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
And for everything that you do, the blueprint, Prosper Clout, just your general presence on the platform. Anyone that's tuning in right now, one of the things that I just love so much about you, Salil, is not, yes, I love all the innovations, the creations, the intelligence that you're bringing, but I love the heart that you bring. Like, to me, that is the most important thing in my work. And you are the sweetest, most beautiful man that is doing amazing things for this planet. And you can give your wife that one. I'll happily do it.
Yes, I was going to say, so there are two parts of this podcast. One, what Mub said, and one, what you just said. I think I'm going to record this and present it to her. Yes, thank you.
That's our gift to you to keep you going in the real world.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much. This was lovely.
All right. Much love, everyone. Novoa and Rome, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you so much.